Yes, everybody, welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com, or of course, if you are watching on our fast-growing YouTube channel, that is TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me from Castle Coliseum in Blacksburg, Virginia, our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And AJ, you just saw the Tar Heels pick up the 65-57 win over Virginia Tech. Carolina improving to 19-8 on the year, 11-5 in ACC play. Virginia Tech, who came into the game having won 6 straight, dropping to 16-11, 8-8 in conference play. So big win for the Tar Heels on the road. They needed it. Bounce back performance. It wasn't the greatest performance in the world, which we'll hit on here in a second, but bounce back win for the Tar Heels after that. Very disappointing, to say the least, performance against Pittsburgh midweek in Chapel Hill. So, AJ, first thing I want to talk about, though, I kind of want to hit on that 22-6 Carolina run in the first half. Thought it was big time for the Tar Heels, really flipped the switch on the game because let's not forget Virginia Tech had the lead for most of that first half before Carolina kind of made a move on them, started hitting some shots, played a little bit better defense. I know Virginia Tech didn't shoot well today, which we'll also hit on here in a little bit. But overall, that 22-6 run in the first half, wrapping it up kind of towards that halftime break, Carolina took a little bit of a lead into that. And that was a major, major reason and factor that Carolina was able to come out tonight with the 8-point victory.
Yeah, it was 22-16, and I kind of had the sense that Carolina needed to get some stops because if they didn't, and they had a couple of bad possessions, and then Tech would hit a couple of threes, they could start to creep away quickly, but they didn't. They actually got those stops. And I think during this early in that 22-6 run, I kind of sensed that the Hokies changed a little bit. Leaky started at getting 5 points, and our vantage point here, it's kind of a cool place to watch a game because you can see a lot of stuff that sometimes we don't see from other vantage points. And I saw the crease in the lane sort of slowly open when Leaky saw it when he was about mid-court, right in front of where I am right now. And he darted right through it. And I think that was the time he just drew the foul. I don't think he scored. The next time was when he got the steal. Mm-hmm. He took it to the rim. He scored, drew the foul. He scored the first 5 points to get that run going. And then it was a little bit of Caleb, a little bit of RJ, a little more Caleb, a little more RJ. And it was a 22-6 run that, honestly, I didn't think that the Hokies were the same team after that. And the Tar Heels were a very confident-looking group. Mm-hmm. And that was a professional run, the way they handled it. It was loud in here, and they kind of overcame not playing great offensively during that early part of the stretch. And they did give up some open looks that Tech wasn't hitting, other than to the post guys. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I thought that was a professional stretch, a professional period by the Tar Heels. They showed a lot of maturity, and they seized control of the game and never let it up. There were a few other times when the Hokies pushed, and the Tar Heels did something to score. And very, very positive. And very positive that Leakey's the guy that got it going, too. He had like 4 or 5 turnovers, I think, tonight.
Yeah.
So you don't usually see that from him, but I love seniors. I love mature guys. I love guys that don't let a bad play beat you. They don't let it linger to the next play, and they get 2 bad plays in a row. And Leakey's not that guy. Leakey knows how to handle that stuff. He's been through it a lot, and I like the fact that a guy like him got that run going, and they responded. They all kind of galvanized, and they were the better team during that stretch. They were the better team today, and they don't win this game, in my opinion, without having some kind of run there because the Hokies weren't the same. Mm-hmm. Even when they made that push, I just never got the impression that Virginia Tech was going to completely come back and win the game. Mm-hmm. And maybe they thought the same thing as well. Mm-hmm. So 22-6 run, phenomenal basketball down stretch, but you got to love when your old guy, the guy who's been in this program longer than anybody else on the team, got it going.
Yeah, most definitely. I think Leakey's had a good season this for the most part this year and has done some really nice things. I know he doesn't always fill up the stat sheet, but made some nice plays. And, Caleb Love also having a big game. I'm going to run through some stats real quick before we move on to the second thing. Caleb Love led the way, 21 points for the sophomore guard, 7 assists, just 2 turnovers. Brady Manick, 14.6 rebounds. I mean, he had at one point had all 7 of Carolina's points. So a little bit quiet in the second half. Looked a little bit kind of tired, for lack of a better word, in some of those stretches. I know, look at the minutes that Carolina starters played. Manick playing 37 of the 40 minutes tonight, and that was kind of the same for every other starter. So kind of makes sense in some ways. Armando Bacot, another double-double for the big man, 12 points, 15 boards. RJ Davis, 10 points, 6 rebounds. So, AJ, I want to talk about defense a little bit as well, because Virginia Tech, really, really good three-point shooting team. Shot just 19.2% from beyond the arc today, just 5 of 26. Aluma and Mutz were kind of the guys that they went to. I know Aluma had a pretty decent game in the stat sheet, 16 points, 9 boards, 3 turnovers to throw in there. And then Mutz, 10 points, 5 rebounds for him, also had 3 assists. So those were kind of the guys that led the way for the Hokies. But everybody else besides that, the leading scorer besides those 2 guys had just 9 points, and then you're getting really low with guys pitching in 5 points, 2 points, 5 points again. So I think defending the 3 and the way that Virginia Tech shot in general is really what allowed Carolina to pull away like they kind of did in the second half and keep that kind of comfortable margin where they could come out with the win. Now, there were some open looks, particularly in that second half. I think Virginia Tech missed some wide open shots. So I can't sit here and say Carolina was fantastic defensively. I know during that stretch that we talked about in the first half, they had some nice things on defense, but there were some moments in the second half where Virginia Tech just simply didn't hit shots. And if it's maybe another day, we could be having a little bit different of a conversation with some of the looks that Virginia Tech was getting, but wasn't to be today. And you have to give credit to Carolinians for some of those plays they were able to make on defense.
Well, when we talked to Hubert yesterday, he was asked about the interior, about Mutz and Aluma, and he emphasized the importance of not letting them be comfortable down there. Not letting, Aluma's really good on the baseline. He's really good on the block. He's got the drop step, the spin moves. He's got all that stuff. And Mutz is pretty good too. Luma's a better offensive player, but when Luma's playing well, then Mutz often piggybacks on that as well. I thought that they were contesting stuff right out of the gate in the paint. Now, a lot of the other shots that Virginia Tech got were open shots. It wasn't contested, but they were contesting in the paint. They were executing the defensive game plan because it started down there, and then here and the hope was for Hubert that it would trickle out and it would put a little more stress on their perimeter shooting. That's ultimately what happened. That's what Hubert told us after the game. But they were contesting stuff. It was from the get-go. I believe that Aluma and Mutz were combined. I wrote the number down upstairs, but they were around 6 for 22 or something like that inside the paint.
Yeah.
So Aluma hit a couple of threes. Mutz got a late bucket when Carolina wasn't going to offer much resistance because there was no point in risking a foul and 3-point play and all that kind of junk. So, then they were actually less effective, to be honest with you. The fact that Armando and Brady played the minutes they did and they banged the way they did and they made life miserable for those guys inside. That we talked about the 22-6 run, but that was 40 minutes long. There were only a couple of times when Mutz and Aluma did anything in which they looked comfortable. So you got to give Armando and Brady a ton of credit there. Dontrez came in at one time. I think one of the Luma moves that was comfortable. He scored right over Dontrez. Yeah,
you're right over Dontrez, yeah.
And Dontrez was only 6'6", so and Luma's got length. So he got a good entry, turned and scored. So it wasn't Dontrez's fault. It was just a nice play by Luma. I thought that was really important too because they had to be physical to win this game. They had to be gritty, and they established that in the paint right out of the gate. And for a game in which Armando didn't score in the first half, didn't take a lot of shots until he got a couple of that flurry of offensive rebounds late in the game. I think he only had 4 shot attempts, but he still was so valuable because of what he did defensively. I think he had 5 blocks, 15 rebounds. By the way, he's got 35 rebounds in 2 games against Virginia Tech. And I asked him afterward about the physicality because he talked about it, or he didn't talk about it yesterday, but Hubert talked about how physical the game was the first time. And Armando said this was more physical. And they won that battle. I think it's important not just that this team wins, but how they win. They getting the kind of performance they got from Caleb today, the mature performance they got from him, and then winning a game that you have to be gritty and battle and be more physical than the other team, and doing it on the road when the place is a zoo. So there are a lot of things on the checklist that Carolina fans can look at and feel really good about. The win is great. They needed a win. This is going to be a Q1 win on Selection Sunday. I don't think the Hokies are going to fall that far. So they got that. Now they have that one. And if Michigan can win a few games, they'll have 2, and they get a chance to pick up a third when they go to Duke. But it's also important to continue to play well and grow and see the evidence of, okay, when you do things a certain way, this is what happens. They've had a lot of evidence of of doing things the right way and how it works. They've had a lot of evidence this year of when they don't do things the right way, what happens. So this was another example of doing things the right way. But I think the grit meter rates very high in this game, and I credit Brady and Armando big time, and the other guys too. I think RJ had a steal in the backcourt at one time that was just kind of a cagey little play from him, and he was getting banged a lot, hit the floor a lot. So I love the fact that this team kind of brought its boxing gloves out there, and they won. It wasn't a TKO or anything like that, but they won.
Yeah,
and they won in a situation in which people think this was a must-win game for Carolina. I think it was more a must-win for the Hokies.
Yeah,
because they're now 8-8 in a bad ACC. The 16-11. I know the NET is high, but when the committee evaluates them compared to some of the other teams in the league, how you do in the league, and especially having this big game this late in the year at home and not getting it done, that's going to hurt them a lot. Carolina would have been able to survive a loss here more than Virginia Tech.
Yeah,
and I like the fact that Armando said, "Look, it was a must-win game. Their backs were against the walls, and they played like it."
Mm-hmm. They did. I mean, you got to give credit for Carolina. Like I said, it wasn't a very pretty game of basketball, really, on either side of the court. Virginia Tech and North Carolina, I'm sure they have played better games this year, but Carolina found a way to win.
I'm a big believer that winning games that aren't super pretty is a great way to grow, because we know this team can be pretty. But you have to see evidence of them winning gritty, and they've been doing some of that. The Louisville game was a gritty win. The Clemson game was a gritty win.
Yeah,
those two were on the road. This was a gritty win. They have that in them. It's just a matter of, which I think was probably the theme of the post-game pressers, was the consistency. Bringing that lunch pail every time they take the court. If they do that, this club can win a lot of games. You can beat a lot of people anywhere at any time. So it's just a matter of connecting that game to game. And we'll see how they come out Monday night. That'll be interesting, taking a team seriously. They've already beaten a club that's struggling. So it'll be another example to kind of see where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about what this means, AJ. Obviously, like you mentioned a few minutes ago, Carolina getting its first Q1 win of the season. That's super important for this Carolina basketball team. You mentioned this as well. You got another game, quick turnaround for the Tar Heels with Louisville visiting Chapel Hill on Monday. That's a 7 p.m. tip-off. So I think it's an important win for the Tar Heels because of who it is. It's a Q1 win on the road against a Virginia Tech team, like I said, that came into this game having won 6 straight. This is a Virginia Tech team that's played some really nice basketball over the past month or so in particular. So, AJ, for you, looking ahead a little bit, it's a gritty win which is always a positive thing for Carolina in the way in which they did. They didn't play great, but they found a way. Like you said, you can grow a lot from that. But looking ahead with March Madness just right around the corner, and ACC tournament not too far away, into the regular season's not too far away either. What are your thoughts about what this kind of win means for the Tar Heels moving forward?
Well, they can't let up. So they've got that win now. It's funny, the narrative before Pittsburgh was, well, they've beaten everybody they were supposed to beat, and they haven't lost anybody they weren't supposed to lose to. And that happened Wednesday. And you can't erase it. You can't eliminate that. But what this does, it kind of balances that out. They got a win on the road, a Q1 win on the road, a team, I believe Tech was favored. I don't look at lines much.
Yeah, they were 5-point favorites, I think.
I think most people expected the Hokies to win this game coming in, and the Tar Heels got a win. And they were the better team, and they were in control the last 27 minutes of the game. They were in control. And Tech had that one push. They cut it to 5, I think, and Carolina responded. And responded really well. I mean, they looked like they'd been there, done that a lot before.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to be like when you get toward the end of February, heading into March, and especially when your high-end guys are doing high-end things. And Caleb was a totally high-end guy tonight in a lot of ways. And Armando, disregard the points because Armando's about a lot more than points, obviously. So I'm a big believer that when you can win a game like this, it means a lot more than just a W. Sometimes you come out, you shoot lights out, and it kind of camouflage. You remember what Roy always said? Everything looks better when the ball goes to the basket. I'm glad that this team was pushed today because we got to see how they responded. I'm glad it wasn't a super pretty game and it wasn't poetry in motion because we got to see that come out of them. They know that they have it. They just know they need to do it more consistently. So what does this mean? It means they've got a win that should push them above the last 4 in. Not that really matters because Joe Lenardi isn't the one who actually puts the tournament together. But it's the talk, and the bottom line is, that's where they were. It's justified that this team was on the fence. They're still on the fence. They can't let up. They have to make this win count a lot by responding Monday. and then not letting up next week when they go to state. State will give them absolutely everything they possibly can because that'll be their season. So we get to continue to learn about this club. And that's what I love. I've told you a million times before. My favorite thing about games is each time a team plays a game, we get to learn more about it. It's intel, right? Sometimes Carolina fans don't like what they're learning. Sometimes they love what they're learning. I think tonight was a combination of a lot of things. And this is the kind of win, I think, that can help a team march forward more than if they just hit everything they throw up, like the NC State game a few weeks ago or even the Florida State game. I think winning like this time of year makes you better, builds your confidence more. I think it brings guys together more. And they did it with the bench playing like 20 minutes tonight. They are who they are. And they did that against a physical team that I don't know how deep the Hokies went, but I know that Badul and some of their subs played quite a bit. So and it's a Q1 win. You can't. They get a Q1 win. That goose egg. It's not going to be a goose. That column is not going to have a goose egg the rest of the way. No. And if Michigan can do them some favors, they get another one.
Yeah.
And who knows what happens when they go to Durham? They can't let up after this. They have to keep carrying this with them. And by the time they go to Durham in a few weeks, perhaps they will be in position to pick up a huge win.
Yeah. Like you said, cannot take their foot off the gas for the end of the season. Got to keep winning. Got to keep stringing wins along. Duke's up by 11 at home to Florida State right now at halftime break as we're recording this. So it doesn't looks like they'll end up with that win, improve to 23-4 overall. So that game in Durham, like you said, is going to be a big win in the year. And, for Carolina fans' sake, hopefully they see a positive
Let me add one more thing.
Performance. Yeah,
Let me add one more thing. They're one win closer to 20, and Hubert's taken quite a beating the last few days from Carolina fans. It's kind of been an intermittent thing. Well, by February 21st, they could have 20 wins.
Yeah.
And there's still a whole week left in February, and there's all of March. So they won some games. So Carolina fans need to pump the brakes with that dangling on the ledge stuff.
Yeah.
This is a process. We talk process a lot in football, but it's a process in basketball too. It's a process for these kids. It's a process for Hubert.
Yeah.
And good coaches have their teams ready when they come into an environment like this and navigate through all the challenges of winning a game here. That was a well-coached team tonight. They did a lot of good things, a lot of smart things, and they showed a lot of maturity. And if people are going to blame Hubert when they don't, they got to credit them when they do.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely goes both ways. Bad performance, good performance. Everybody should get credit or blame for what goes on in that. So good place to wrap this one up. AJ, Carolina getting the 65-57 win over Virginia Tech, proving to 19-8 overall, 11-5 in conference play. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Make sure you guys keep it locked to TarHeelIllustrated.com. All your post-game coverage from this game. If you want to sign up to be a premium member as well, you can head over, click the link in the description below, sign up for just $8.33 a month. Really, really good time to do so. Basketball's in full swing. Football, basketball recruiting, always a 365-day-a-year thing. So if you want to hear a little bit more from Dina, David on their recruiting insight, you want to get a part of our premium message boards, and we got a really good community over there. If you want to be involved with it, like I said, sign up. Just
people just want to hear Dina's accent. That's
exactly. If you want to hear Dina's accent more, you got to sign up with me. Come on, guys. It's
the only reason I do podcasts with just to hear her accent.
Exactly, man. Unique to say the least. So make sure you guys head on over to TarHeelIllustrated.com. Like I said, sign up, just $8.33 a month. You guys know the drill, though. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell as well, so every single time we upload. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.